We are presented, in other words, with an explanation for agency action that is incongruent with what the record reveals about the agency's priority and decision-making process. The reasoned explanation requirement of administrative law, after all, is meant to ensure that agencies offer genuine justifications for important decisions, reasons that can be scrutinized by courts and the interested public. Accepting contrived reasons would defeat the purpose of the enterprise. That is the decision of the United States Supreme Court. A round of applause. I want to thank all of you for coming out. Every single person in this country deserves to be counted, plain and simple. And today, thanks to the Supreme Court's decision, we will have an opportunity to do just that. As the Supreme Court stated, the evidence showed that the Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross, was determined to reinstate a citizenship question from the time he entered office, instructed his staff to make it happen, waited while Commerce officials explored whether another agency would request census-based citizenship data, subsequently contacted the AG himself to ask if DOJ would make the request, and adopted the Voting Rights Act rationale late in the process. In the district court's view, this evidence established that the Secretary had made up his mind to reinstate a citizenship question well before receiving DOJ request, and did so for reasons unknown but unrelated to the Voting Rights Act. It is simply a pretext for the question. Despite the Trump administration's attempt to politicize the census and divide our nation, we, the people, prevailed. And justice has prevailed. And America is in a better position today than it was yesterday. This single question about one's citizenship status could have a substantial undercount in next year's census, particularly of non-citizens and Latinos. It could have driven millions in New York and numerous other states across the country into the shadows. And it could have impacted our cities, our states, and our communities for a decade to come. With a severe undercount, district lines could have been inaccurate. Congressional, legislative, city, and county lines could have been wrong, and many localities would have lost political representation. Funding formulas would have also been thrown off and decreased for many urban areas with large immigrant populations like New York City and New York State. This would have affected our roads, our bridges, our infrastructure, the number of first responders in our community, and so much more. And so the hard-earned tax dollars New Yorkers pay so much of could have flown to other states with smaller minority populations. And while each of these things would have been terrible, it's important to know what was at stake was more than just numbers. It was about people. And so my office will continue to be vigilant in protecting the constitutional rights of every New Yorker, regardless of your status. And as such, we'll be ready to use every tool in our arsenal to fight to protect its integrity. Today, our democracy withstood a great challenge, but make no mistake, many threats continue to lie ahead, and we will never stop fighting. I want to thanks to the court, the census will remain a tool for delivering on our government's promise of fairness and equity. New York will not be shortchanged of critical resources or political representation because of an undercount. And individuals will not have to be afraid of being counted in. Now more than ever, the marginalized, the disenfranchised, and everyday people need us to stand firm in our fight for justice. After all, everyone counts, and therefore everyone must be counted. Going forward, we still have a lot of work left to do. We need to run a robust public education and awareness campaign all over the state. And therefore, millions in dollars will be needed. And we need to do it in multiple languages. And remember, everyone needs to fill out their census form and ensure your voice is heard. I want to thank our partners in this lawsuit, many that have been with us since day one, particularly the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, NYC 2020, the New York State Division of Human Rights, the New York City Council, the New York Immigration Council, NY Counts 2020 Coalition, the Association for a Better New York, 32 BJ, the Partnership for New York City, the other state attorney generals and city leaders who have been fighting side by side with us every step of the way. And I must take a moment to give special thanks to my own team at the New York State Attorney General's office. In particular, I want to thank and acknowledge Barbara Underwood, our Solicitor General, and her team, Stephen Wu, Judith Vale, Scott Easman, Math Colangelo, and Elena Goldstein. I want to thank them so much. And now our next speaker will be Julie Menin, the director of the New York City Census 2020 and the executive assistant corporation counsel for the New York City Law Department, who is a critical ally ensuring every New Yorker is counted.
Thank you so much. I first of all want to say that the City of New York was so proud to join with the Attorney General as a plaintiff in this seminal case, and I really want to thank the Attorney General, her office, her staff, the elected officials who are here today, all of the business community, the advocates. We are a united coalition to make sure that we have a fair and equitable census and that New York City gets its fair share. So let me be clear, today's decision is a victory for the rule of law and affirms that the Trump administration cannot utilize its constitutional obligation to count us as a tool to harm us. Rather than uphold the inclusion of the citizenship question, the court clearly and rightly rejected the after-the-fact pretext that the Commerce Department used to justify this wholly baseless question. As a former commissioner of 2 regulatory agencies, I know firsthand that administrative agencies are simply not free to make up whole cloth justifications for their actions and are in fact required under administrative law to have a reasoned explanation for their decision. It's crystal clear that the Commerce Department had no such reasoned explanation for their decision, and to use the Voting Rights Act as a pretext was absolutely wrong. So while this fight is not over, this decision is a key victory for immigrant communities and for our city in our battle to ensure that the question is indeed off the census. So let me just say, we're New Yorkers. We're going to stand up. We're going to make sure we get our fair share. We're fighting for over $700 billion of federal funds, public education, public housing, senior centers, so much. With our administration and the City Council's joint historic $40 million investment in census outreach and education efforts, I can assure you we're going to beat our 2010 numbers where the City of New York had a 61.9% response rate versus a national average of 76%. So New Yorkers should plan on hearing from us. We ask every New Yorker to join our efforts. And in closing, we ask you all to send a loud and clear message. We won't be silenced, we're not invisible, and we will all be counted. Thank you.
So much. Our next speaker is Angela Fernandez, the Commissioner of the New York State Division of Human Rights, who runs the division of our state to ensure that every New Yorker is treated equally and fairly. Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Today, we see and witness a victory. Supreme Court has handed us, the people of New York, a victory. We can stand proud and ensure that every single one of us will be counted. Do not mistaken this at all. We will all be counted, and we are together as a family, united. En español, nosotros hoy día está claro que la Corte Suprema ha dicho que todos nosotros vamos a ser contados. Por favor, no tenga temor, no tenga miedo, porque todos nosotros vamos a estar representados, y si no somos contados, vamos a perder unos fondos. I want to thank the Attorney General Letitia James for leading the fight. I want to thank all of our partners for leading the fight. This makes decisions for our next 10 years. And one final thing. Remember, 0 to 5-year-olds are the undercounted. They are counted as well. Make sure that those individuals, those toddlers, those infants in your homes are counted as well. Thank you very much.
Justicia. Our next speaker is my very good friend, Council Member Rafael Espinal, who is a powerful voice on the City Council.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
State Attorney General Letitia James. Thank you for all of your advocacy in making today happen. My name is Councilman Rafael Espinal. I'm an American citizen. I'm a son of immigrants. I have undocumented relatives living in this city. And I can comfortably say that we won today. This is a win for all of us. The Supreme Court recognized that the Trump administration's reason for adding it was complete BS. But this fight is not over. We need to keep up the pressure through the courts, the halls of Congress, and the streets of New York City to make sure the administration doesn't continue to try to put this question back on. We have a lot of work to do. We will not be invisible, and we will not be quiet. There are billions of dollars at stake. The census decides how much money our communities get for better hospitals, better schools, roads, affordable housing, and other services for all of us. New York receives around $73 billion from census-based programs like SNAP, Section 8, and Title I grants for schools. We are entitled to these resources, and the Trump administration wants to deprive us from it because we are a sanctuary city. New York City's response rate in the last census was lower than the national average. We cannot let this happen again. The stakes are higher than ever, and we need to make sure that all New Yorkers get counted and get their due from the federal government. The City Council is working with the community-based organizations to reach every New Yorker and get them counted. We're calling on all City Council members to spread the word in their districts that every single person in New York needs to get counted. I want to thank again our great State Attorney General, Letitia James. I want to thank our great advocates, 32BJ as well, who's with us. The Mayor's Office, the Mayor's New York City Census Team, Julie Menon for your advocacy, Amit Baga and the rest who are on your great team as well. Again, yo soy Rafael Espinal, soy concejal, soy ciudadano, pero soy hijo de inmigrante y tengo familiares de esta ciudad que no son documentados. Y puedo decir hoy que esto es una victoria para todos nosotros. Gracias.
Thank you so much. The next speaker is Councilmember Idanis Rodriguez.
Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. Look, this victory is the result of great leader. The Attorney General that is not just progressing now. She has been progressing the whole life. You know, it's great to have partner leader Julie Menon now in charge of the census, Hector 32BJ, the Immigration Coalition, everyone. My accent speaks by myself. I'm a fucking immigrant, and immigrants represent power. That's what we are. And immigrants deserve to be respected. And we as a city, as a state, as a nation have to lead by action. You know, it is so unacceptable that immigrant is not Latino. Immigrant is not those who came from Africa. Immigrant are not those who came from Asia. Immigrant can be anyone working in the media here that came from Italy, that came from Greek, that came from other places in Europe, that they walk in the street, but we don't see them as an immigrant. So today what we are saying is, with this decision, our brothers and sisters in the Immigrant Coalition, let's be sure that now we get counted. The new millennium generation, please, let's use the social media. Let's do your part to be sure that every single individual from New Mexico to California to New York City is counted, because when we are counted, then we get the resources that we deserve. Nosotros hoy lo que estamos diciendo es, los inmigrantes se respetan. Tenemos líderes como la fiscal, como Julie Menon, 32BJ, la coalición de inmigrantes. Este triunfo llegó producto de trabajar duro, y hoy le pedimos a cada una de la gente de nosotros que se cuente, porque cuando nos contamos llegan los recursos que necesitamos. Thank you.
The next speaker is Stephen Choi, the Executive Director of the New York Immigration Council and one of our great partners and co-chair of the NY Counts 2020 coalitions.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you to our wonderful Attorney General Tish James, a champion for immigrant communities, and thank you to all the amazing partners and allies who are here today. Let me ask you something. Did New York fight the citizenship question? Yes. Did we win the citizenship question? Yes. Make no mistake, today was a victory for immigrants, it was a victory for New York, and it was a victory for democracy. Today, the Supreme Court ruled that this citizenship question was not about voting rights. Today, the court ruled that the citizenship question was not about whatever cockamamie reason Donald Trump gave for it. Today, the Supreme Court ruled that, in fact, this citizenship question was a direct strike at big immigrant-rich states like New York. It was an attack on our money, our power, and our respect, and we should make no bones about that. But we knew from the get-go that this was targeting immigrants, and so together with two other immigrant organizations, we filed that initial lawsuit versus Secretary Wilbur Ross, and I want to thank the ACLU and NYCLU for representing us. And so we are grateful today that the court has ruled in our favor. But let me say this, the fight does not end here today. The real fight for Census 2020 begins today, because we need to fight to make sure the citizenship question stays off the census. And if we're going to do that, we need to fight in the courts, in the halls of Congress, and in the streets. And so tonight, the New York Counts Coalition, the New York Counts 2020 Coalition, we are having a rally at 5:30 p.m. just a block from here at City Hall Park, and we ask that all New Yorkers join us for this rally because we need to send a message to Donald Trump and his administration that we know the citizenship question is an attack on us, and we are going to fight back, are we not? Yes! So I want to thank the amazing members of the New York Counts 2020 Coalition because we are going to spend the next year fighting to make sure that every single New York is counted. And so I want to thank the amazing partners. We have Citizens Union, we have the Chinese American Planning Council, the Asian American Federation, we have 32BJ, we have the Association of Better New York. We have so many partners, 200 member agencies all across this great state, and we're going to work to make sure that every single New Yorker is counted. The fight starts here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our economy in New York State relies upon immigrants, and I'm so glad that the business community stood with us. And now we'll hear from Stephen Rubenstein, the chair of the Association for a Better New York, an organization that thrives every day to make New York City a better place to live, and another co-chair of NY Counts 2020 Census.
First, let me thank our Attorney General for her incredible leadership here today. I'm going to say I did not see this court making this decision, and so I want to say thank you for your bravery to take the fight to them for us. I also want to say this is a win not just for New York, but for our values, our real New York values and values of our nation. I'm here on behalf of the Association for a Better New York. Our membership is made up of businesses, unions, health, not-for-profits, educational, and cultural institutions. We have a simple message. All New Yorkers count. They deserve a voice, and we're going to continue to stand together. Led by the Attorney General, we stood up for our neighbors and our neighborhoods. Now we have to continue the push because we want every New Yorker to complete the census, and I know that no one likes to fill out a form, but this is not an ordinary form. The census literally means money and support for our hospitals, our schools, our roads, affordable housing, and other critical services. It also helps provide fairness and equity as our city works to close the economic divide. We all need to stand up and be counted. Today helped a lot, and we're going to keep on pushing, and we look forward to working with all our partners. And thank you once again to our great AG.
Thank you so much. And our last speaker is a leader in the city, in the state, in this nation. It's because labor is the reason why we have the middle class. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you my friend and the labor leader here in this state, Hector Figueroa of 32.
Gracias a nuestra fiscal general, Tish James. Esta decisión de la Corte Suprema es una victoria para todos aquellos que queremos que nuestra población, nuestras comunidades, nuestra gente, nuestras familias, nuestros hijos e hijas puedan ser contados para que tengan la voz política y los derechos constitucionales que nos corresponden. Así que gracias a toda esta coalición, a nuestros oficiales electos en la ciudad y el estado, es una victoria, pero seguimos la lucha. Tenemos ahora que asegurarnos que la pregunta no esté en el censo final y que nuestra gente no se asuste, que sepan que estamos todos unidos y tenemos todos que llenar esa hoja del censo y operar sin miedo que quiere inculcar la administración de Trump. In English, I want to say that this is a victory. We have not won the entire war against those who are trying to undermine our communities and take away our rights, but we have won an important battle. The decision of the Supreme Court is a reaffirmation that we are on the right side, that all of this great coalition led by our Attorney General, our city officials, our coalition partners is going to continue the fight. We're going to continue to educate our community, and we are not going to rest until every New Yorker is counted. Every New Yorker counts. Every New Yorker is counted. That's what our Attorney General said. We echo that, and we want to make sure that everyone understands the importance of the census. This is the most unifying, the most challenging thing that we New Yorkers can do, and we are going to get the work done of counting everyone.
Si se puede. Again, let me thank the amazing team led by Barbara Underwood, the Solicitor General, Stephen Wu, Judy Vale, Scott Eisman, Matthew Colangelo, Elena Goldstein, Ajay Sinai, Laura Wood, Alex Finkelstein, also Diane Lucas, Liz Morgan, Danielle Fidler, Sonia Khan, Alvin Bragg, and David Nachman. Are there any questions? What did you say? I'm sorry, a little louder. Oh, there was days and nights where I was concerned, but I'm so glad that Justice Roberts did the right thing. The true administration of justice, it's really critically important that any rule be based on evidence which can be substantiated, and it's really critically important as we remand this case back to the Commerce Department as well as to the District Court that Wilbur Ross consult with some experts, some legitimate experts, and hopefully he will come to the determination that a citizenship question will result in the undercounting of countless number of individuals, and that the adverse impact that it will have on New York State and other states across this nation. It is critically important that the Commerce Department get it right, and that they do not use the Justice Department or the Voting Rights Act as a pretext for the citizenship question, which has not been on the census since 1950. The question really comes down to timing. We were told that the drop-dead date for this decision, because we needed to print the forms, was the end of June. Now there's a question of timing. And so the question really is whether or not whether or not the Commerce Department can make a determination as to whether or not this question should be on the citizenship, should be on the census form in a timely fashion, whether or not they're going to push back the date, the impact that it will have on the census, and individuals knocking on doors. These are all questions that have yet to be decided, and so we really need clarification. And so we hope that the Commerce Department, that Wilbur Ross really consults with some experts, that he comes back with a decision, and the decision is the following, and that is that we do not need the citizenship question on the census form, that it will result in the undercounting of immigrants, and it will have a great impact on states with a significant number of immigrants who live within their state. Any other questions? We don't know, and that is the question that really needs to be answered. The question right now is really all about timing. The question is whether Mr. Ross will seek out experts, make a decision with respect to this question, and decide to go back to the district court. We need some finality and some closure to this, because we need to engage in the census. It's required by the Constitution, and the Constitution is clear. Everyone should be counted. Any other questions? Pretext? Well, if they come up with another pretext, we'll see them in court again. Any other questions? Oh, the gentleman, it was a very narrow decision, and it was not based on the new evidence that was uncovered. And so, again, the ACLU clearly has written to the district court and has asked that Mr. Ross and others be sanctioned, and that that we should have a new hearing based upon the new evidence that was discovered. And as most of you know, the new evidence that was discovered by this individual who recently passed was that this question with respect to citizenship was decided a long time ago. And in fact, this question was considered, it was referred and recommended that in fact they put the citizenship question back on the census form, and that it would result in, again, the creation of more Republican districts and districts of white individuals, white males preferably, and we know, and that the Voting Rights Act was nothing more than a pretext for their reasoning, and that is, and for their decision, and their decision basically had to do with, again, electing more Republicans and creating more Republican districts in our country. Any other questions? Any off-topic questions? Nope. No, there's not any more updates, and obviously I can't comment on pending investigations. Any other questions? From the media. Any other questions? The consequences are the following. If in fact We do not get out enumerators on the ground to knock on doors. I want to thank the City Council. I want to thank the Governor for including funds, obviously, in their budgets. We need to get individuals on the door as soon as possible. And the question is whether how late can we wait? These forms need to be printed. And the further we delay it, the further we risk not having an accurate count. This is really all about an accurate count, a count so that we can get resources that we desperately need, resources to address our infrastructure, our first responders, our safety net, and that we have representation. If, in fact, this citizenship question was on the census form, there was a possibility that in New York we could lose not one, but perhaps 2 congressional districts. It's important that everyone be represented. Immigrants contribute greatly to our economy, and they contribute greatly to our country. This is a nation of immigrants, and it's really critically important that we understand that, and that the President of these United States understands that, and that everyone be counted. It is in our Constitution, and that is why the Office of Attorney General decided to go forward on this case. Yeah. So we have another night, and I will not comment on the mayor's performance. I do not have a candidate in this race yet, but at this point in time, again, I look forward to tonight's debate as well. Thank you.